Hi everyone, I'm actually going to make a really quick video. This is more of a video about this particular short series I have just started watching. It goes by the title of The Birch. Okay, I will keep this really short because I have to go sleep and yeah, there are things like shaving whatever I need to do tomorrow morning and everything just to make sure that I look decent, presentable. I wanted to talk a little bit about this particular TV series, not just because it's interesting, but also because of the way that it actually struck me. That as I started watching, I realized there are some things which really resonate with me, and that made me realize, there are actually lots of good um, drama series around, although they might not be very high budget and they are not like funded by big studios. The Birch is actually a 2 season series that was actually launched originally under Facebook Watch and under Crypt TV, CRYPT, Crypt, as you know, Crypt, the place where people are buried, and dead people are buried, yeah. And the television series obviously was based on an original short film. Okay, in the original short film, which did not last more than 5 minutes, it featured a really very short story. Okay, in which a young high school student, a boy, was given a book. It's like a spell book, yeah, antiquarian spell book by his late grandmother, just on her just before she dies. Okay, and she says this. She says this to him. Uh, you know, uh, just to follow the instructions in the book. And then she says something about this particular being. She will protect the ones who have the pure ones who are pure in heart with love in their hearts. Yeah, or pure with love in their hearts. And she will protect you after I'm gone. It's a very short 5 minute movie short film, but in that short 5 minutes, more has been told in that story than most movies right now. Okay, this kind of shows you that in fact we don't need to have actually big budget and high budget and all this kind of special effects or whatever that in excess, over the top stuff to create a story that actually binds an audience. Okay, there's a kind of intercutting between a scene of that boy running away from his bully who tries to keep on hulking himself over him, trying to hit him and everything, punch at him and forcing him to run away, and him running to his grandmother who was on her deathbed with a swollen eye. And then in a later scene, the third act, basically he was he was actually at the particular tree. Okay, the birch tree with a symbol that his grandmother told him to look out for, according to the book. And he utters, while touching the inscription, he utters that particular invocation: "For thee who makes me, I shall come. Thee who breaks me shall come undone." Okay, so that is the basis of from which the subsequent 2 seasons of the drama series sort of evolved from. So in the end of that, at the end of the 5 minutes, just when you thought that the bully was coming over to him to try to do stuff like with a knife and everything, probably to stab him or whatever. um he kind of like just put that talisman that he had made or on the birch tree in front of him, as if it's going to protect him. The bully didn't believe it, snatched it, smashed it, broke it, and then threw it away. But just before he was running, used a small pen knife, pocket pen knife to do stuff like stab that high school boy. The Birch, okay, the spirit, the tree. I mean, we'll call her a tree demon, but she isn't really a demon, not in the sense that she's not evil. She has a morality of her own. Okay, she protects the weak ones, and it's almost to a very extreme degree that she basically ends the life of that bully. Okay, because you see that later on. There's certain images like very much at the beginning, like blood dripping down the white shirt of someone, or then blood dripping down the branches. Okay, and yeah, things like that. And then the end obviously has that bullied young schoolboy, teenage boy, holding the hands of the birch. Okay, the hands of the branches of the birch, which are the hands basically, the wiry fingers or the wiry branches as they look on the corpse of the high school bully. So this is the premise of the short film. But in season one, which I actually started watching, I haven't really watched season two yet. I'm planning to go on to watching it, but season one, I watched episodes 1 to 9, and it's actually pretty good actually. Although each episode is no more than like 15 to 17 minutes around there, with some like few like half a minute or like maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute of like a preview of what happens in the next episode. So I'm not sure whether episodes 10 to 16 are available on YouTube. They may not be available, but from what I gather of the synopsis I can kind of figure out what happens. So we know that the birch is a creature that it kind of seems inspired by Native American mythology about tree spirits, which are guardians, but it also has that the kind of presence where it guards the oppressed, the innocents. Okay, and in true to the spirit of the short film, the original short film, and even in seasons 1 and 2, the people who invoke the birch are normally those who have actually been abused or bullied in some context. Okay, and yeah, it feels a little bit like some kind of a very Stephen King-esque kind of plot, with some elements of Guillermo del Toro, that kind of visuals, and I mean everything is set in Oregon. Okay, in that quirky little town called Kings Point, and which obviously I'm not sure whether it exists as a town, but in Kings Point, and those who knows how Oregon is as a state, is a very quirky state, in the Pacific Northwest. So it's not really very much like Seattle or whatever or those kind of other cities, but Oregon itself has a very unique reputation. Okay, as a place where all these hippie movements and everything are. So season one follows like three different teenagers. Okay, Lenny Bouchard. Okay, and A.B. Grayson, and also Thurston Polk. Okay, I'm not gonna actually spell the names. It's gonna take too long, but each of them have a kind of backstory, and as short as it is, you get a sense of how these characters are. So the main one is actually Lenny Bouchard. She's actually a politician's daughter, but she's adopted, so she isn't treated very well by her father and her mother per se, and he always forces her to do some things that such as reciting a so-called formula. I will be the forwards. I will be this. I will be strong. I'll be patient. I'll be kind. And it's a kind of like a gaslighting of her, okay, to push her into this sense of admitting that she is the problem. But she has had some like special abilities since she was young and when she was adopted. So the backstory is that she was actually she forms a friendship with the Chinese Chinese or Asian boy next door who lives the neighbor next door, Darren actually, who however he has this problem. He has a bald spot in the middle of his head. It could be alopecia areata, or as he calls it later on, we get a sense by I think episodes 8 or 7. He has trichotillomania. Basically, trichotillomania is the thing where you have these fingers where you can't control it actually, and neurologically you tear out parts of your hair. You just grab it for some strange reason. It's under stress and everything. So the whole thing with all these characters, you see that Lenny Bouchard, she has all these tendencies, but she has actually sexual relationships with one of the boys. I think Thad. Okay, that would be a longer form of Thaddeus or something like that. He impregnates her, she gives birth, and obviously her parents like didn't want her to actually, I mean the news of her being pregnant, having given birth, to actually get out. So they actually force her to actually recognize that baby of hers, a daughter, okay, as her sister, okay, the baby daughter being Laura. But there are certain things that they do to her. They actually isolate her from her daughter, kneeling in the place, confining her, and as time goes by, on and on and on, and you get a sense of how the father becomes more he becomes more abusive, okay, even actually throwing her into the asylum, the mental asylum, to get her away from her daughter. And so throughout, because we know that Lenny Bouchard has some special powers which are linked, she's linked telepathically to the Birch. She has all these special powers. She has plant empathy. She can control plants, may grow, whatever, and then do stuff, and then even go on the offensive against people, and a lot of different things. And even telekinetic powers are linked to plants. They can be quite offensive. They can actually hurt people, or attack people just by vines and things like that. And she can also, I think it's later on, I think she did something to her mother. I'm not sure what exactly she did to her adoptive mother, who was kind of they went quite far actually, to try to not just to put her in the asylum, but even to isolate her from her daughter. So what she did was to, I think she could even morph into the Birch. Basically, she will just as she grows, the kind of empathy the fingers will become the branches of the Birch, and then just crush the person that she actually hugs, and then she'll grow taller and taller like a tree. It's pretty it can be quite creepy. We call it creepy, but I thought that in a way it was kind of poetic as well. In many senses, especially for the backstory of Lenny Bouchard, we don't get a sense of like sympathy for the parents, unfortunately, or even for the Uncle Mitch, who was actually helping the parents to actually control her, not just control her, but even devalue and abuse her. Yeah. So that kind of like their downfall and their possible demise actually was compounded by the abuse. Okay. So that kind of thing. So we get a sense of sympathy for her. Okay, then the other part is also another story. The other character is actually A.V. Grayson. Okay, A.V. Grayson, her mother is, we know from the beginning that her mother was kind of in the asylum, passed away because of something related to fentanyl, one of the drugs. Like, she was a drug addict. Her mother was a drug addict, so she lives with her father being a very kind man who actually works, and then tries to take care of her as well as as a single parent and everything. But the one thing with A.V. Grayson is that she witnesses a murder. Okay, a murder of a man who was actually a druggie as well. Okay, and she was like because she was a witness, she was actually kind of like under a lot of danger. The three boys who were responsible for it, okay, they were drug dealers. Okay, and they included that these three boys are named Wes, okay, I think Craven, I think so. Ryan, Wes, Ryan, and also Thurston Polk. So she witnesses the murder, okay, and they know her, they chase after her, warn her, whatever, but they kind of like stop short, and but because she's a high school student, so they kind of try to silence her to warn her not to say anything, okay, but because she was, I think that later on by I think episodes 8 and 9, there was a point when things start shifting because her father was being actually offensively hurt by the uncle of Thurston Polk, okay, who was actually a drug dealer. Obviously, he's the main mastermind of the whole thing, and he wanted to just go on the offensive to hurt Evie Grayson's father. He actually like stabbed him a few times, so obviously in the back, and left him just like that for dead. Obviously, thankfully, he was found in time and then rescued, and so yeah, so he was fine. But Abby, the whole thing shows how Abby starts taking things into her own hands. She steals, or she takes away the what's it, the shawl cap of the girlfriend of one of the boys, okay, of the bullies, who was trying to threaten her and call her the serial killer when she wasn't, okay, and she uses that, and then also the skateboard of Gavin, okay, the younger brother of Thurston Polk. So she actually offers them like some kind of like a sacrifice. It's like a tributary offering to the Birch, asking her, the Birch is actually a female, to actually take vengeance, okay, the exact vengeance on the boys, okay, and those who are their family and everything. So of course there's this whole idea of morality that comes up to play again. We get a sense, however, that sometimes things might go too far, especially because the Birch doesn't really care for whether the extent of his actions taken are too far. Yeah, it just knows that it has to protect the downtrodden, which is like all these people who actually call upon her, and so obviously she could go as far as destroying those people related to them. And so we know later on, I kind of know that basically the brother Gavin is being like sacrificed because he's gonna be unalive literally, because you see at the point that it's not a very short process, it's actually quite a long protracted process, because later on we see him being snatched by those long vines, everything. Then it keeps on pulling him, they keep on pulling him deeper and deeper into the forest. At the very end of, I think, maybe which one of the further other episodes, I think could be from 10 to 16 onwards, I think he's being surrounded by all these vines and he's being lifted very high up. So there are a few other characters, like I think Thad, THAD, was also being destroyed by the Birch. Basically he was the one who actually impregnated Lenny. But that one is another thing, this link to Lenny. Lenny could basically astral project, and when she astral projects, she could invoke the Birch to punish him, okay, for doing stuff like getting her pregnant out of wedlock, and also even while not choosing to actually fulfill his parental duties. He was also like doing stuff like harassing her friends, like Darren, okay, that the Chinese or Asian boy, and also doing other really crazy stuff, and also like trying to bait young girls, other teenage young girls in the forest. So this whole thing about harassment, okay, Evie takes it pretty much further, as I said, by actually offering those few things that belongs to all these different people, the bullies, or their bullies' families and friends, okay, to the Birch, asking her to actually exact revenge or vengeance on her behalf, because she doesn't have the power, okay, as someone who is downtrodden. But we know that it gets really really far, because the one by one the Birch does different things to, like, let's say first Ryan. She actually blinds Ryan, giving him, actually, he's kind of like crazy. By the time he took his own life, in hospital using one of these the syringes or the IV drip to sort of like do something to himself to destroy his own life. He was already like blinded by the vines of the birch. Okay, and even I think for West, okay, was the other one, the taller bully. He was being also pretty much destroyed by the birch, by a different means though, by like being hung on the tree by the vines. Okay, so you see, the birch has a kind of morality of its own. It's a very, to a certain extent, or even call it Viking, because that's how they actually used to punish criminals in the past. Okay, but the birch has a very strong morality of its own. The morality is not very Christian. It's very primitive, pre-Christian, in the sense that it sees whom it want to punish accordingly. So from episodes 10 to 16, that will be the point when I think that the two girls, Lenny Bouchard and Avery Grayson, start coming to terms with the whole idea of the morality of their actions. Okay, other than that of the Birch, and of course, the character of Thurston Polk, he's supposed to be one of the bullies or one of the few people who have actually whether indirectly or directly caused the death of one other druggie. But he's more repentant. We get a sense that he's more repentant. He wants to escape the life of a dealer for drugs, because his uncle is the one who keeps on doing that and pressurizing him, using force and intimidation and coercion, and even using like nails, sticking two nails in in between his finger knuckles to hurt Thurston with that. But the thing is that obviously none of them can escape the Birch. So things will kind of become more and more interesting as time goes by, because I believe that this thing with Thurston, I'm not sure whether he really survives till the end. We know that Evie actually does survive till the end, because she appears in actually season 2 again, but in season 2 she's basically exiled. She lives pretty far from King's Point, or she tries not to get involved, but she makes a new friend in the person of Rory, R-Y, who's also a high school student or teenager, but she tells her not to get involved, don't invoke the Birch, because things will come to this point where you cannot control it, and the Birch doesn't care. Okay, once it's being invoked, it will take things into his own hands. I would say that the whole action, because it's so short, 15 to 17 minutes for every episode, is actually pretty terse, pretty well managed. And the thing is that all these episodes, especially right now from episode number 1 to number 9, so far I would say episodes 8 to 9, episodes 8 and 9 are kind of like the bottleneck, kind of where I would say that it's very poetic in terms of the imagery. You get to see a certain lot of imagery. I'm not going to give the game away about the imagery. Some of the imagery that in which all these characters like Thurston Polk, he starts seeing he has a dream of how Evie is going to punish him via his younger brother Gavin, and you see the image of her doing certain things with the cadaver of his younger brother, and also even the earlier parts have some very interesting things. We get a sense of how Lenny Bouchard's powers are, her so-called like that kind of telepathic link to the Birch, because she actually kind of mimics the plant or mimics the Birch in a way, in some ways, when she astral projects and sees how the Birch actually punishes people like that. And at the point while she's dreaming, she actually starts doing things like she simulates what happens with these people, like forming an amount. She's not literally forming an she does literally form an amount, but she's not passing away. She's just actually mimicking what happens to these people. It's as if she is the Birch in a way. Okay. I'm very interested to know what happens to Lenny Bouchard, but she's one of the very interesting characters because she's so telepathically linked to the Birch, unlike Evie Grayson, who's just like invoking the Birch as a kind of like a friend or guardian. But there's something about the Birch, the way from the short film into season 1 at least, there's this idea, there's this whole thing, a mother's love never dies. The Birch is actually a protective maternal figure, but in I think later on as we goes on and on, I think maybe that some people would say that this idea of the mother's love in season 1, by the time it goes on to season 2, it becomes a bit possessive. The Birch doesn't tolerate those who betray its love and concern for the for the downtrodden underlings or high school students. But yeah, it's a very strange thing that when I come to think about it, and I mean I'm not trying to say that I do feel kind of like I wish that this kind of things happen. Maybe this kind of things ought to happen to people who do that kind of stuff, to to essay people, to assault and hurt people, but maybe they deserve a Birch in their lives to punish them and to teach them some fear. Okay, but anyway, that's it for now. I'm gonna go and sleep. Okay, have a good one, everyone. Okay, have a good night. Bye bye.